Okay. Welcome, welcome to the Courage Coaching and Counseling Podcast. Benjamin and Heidi Sadler. Thank you for coming on, guys. So I'll have done an introduction, but part of the introduction is Benjamin and Heidi are two of my favorite people in the world, and I am so excited to have this conversation with them. My wife Julie said when I told her that I was going to have them on that we could do 5 episodes. And the last time we talked, we actually talked for 3.5, 4 hours about life. And so I am excited to have them on for you guys, listeners, to get to know them. And I learned from them so much the past few years. Benjamin was our pastor at our old church. You can hear his messages. I'll put the link. He's a great preacher, but there's even more to them, and I'm going to let them tell their story. So thank you, Benjamin and Heidi, for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Savannah. We absolutely love you. We love you all so much, and the feeling is absolutely mutual.
The kind of the framework. I'm going to ask you to share a lot because your lives are full. And so kind of the 4 main topics that I'm going to ask you to talk about is music, your music. You're in the you have a band, Chasing Ebenezer, and just came out with a new album. So music. I'm going to ask you about marriage and how you guys do that, the story of your marriage, and lessons learned, and any wisdom you can share for couples out there. And then also want to talk about your ministry. And you guys serve in a few churches and several different ways. And it's just really neat to see how you guys are do that. So I would love to hear like an update of how you're doing ministry, especially ministry during pandemic, and how that the pandemic has affected the way you guys love people and serve people. And then also, besides ministry, your thoughts on mental health awareness, mental health stigma in the church, and then also just how uh, to better support people who struggle with emotional health, mental health, and then also if you've had any struggles that you're willing to share, how do you minister? How do you do music? How do you do marriage if you're struggling with mental health stuff? So that's a lot. And so
We
I am
assume you
happy
have
for
all those
anything.
answers, Savannah.
We'll hopefully scratch the surface.
Yes.
By
Yes.
sharing everything we've done wrong. So
Absolutely.
Exactly.
The I it these I think these topics are kind of a softball because you guys have shared so much and over the years, and but I still have more to learn from you and about you. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your backgrounds and where you grew up, and then how you met and fell in love. I always love to hear that.
Are you going first or am I going first?
I'll go first, and then you can
You
take
can
first on
go
the
first.
next
You're
question. Does
older
that work?
anyway. You're
I
married to a
know.
younger
I know.
woman.
I'm
So.
going to be 40 next month, Savon.
Woo!
Going to be
Awesome.
40.
Big 4. Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Yes. So I am from Virginia, actually. I lived there for 26 years. I'm an only child, which probably explains a lot of things. And I grew up not having any real conflicts with other people because I was an only child and didn't have um, wasn't really in a lot of places where that would need to happen. So,
That's what
yeah.
you told me was you were the first person who ever had a problem with me.
And I'm sure that wasn't true now. Yeah, but no, I grew up. I started playing guitar when I was about 15, and a lot of that was because I was a quiet kid. I was shy because I had a very adult vocabulary, and kids made fun of me for that, so I just stopped talking.
Hmm.
And then when you kind of take on the identity as the quiet person, when you try to start opening up to people, it's so hard to do. And music kind of became my vehicle for being able to do that. And
Hmm.
it since I started playing, I started writing songs pretty quickly, and that just became a part of me. Wherever I went, whatever I did, my guitar came with me. And that's actually how I met Heidi. I met Heidi because I played a song that I wrote in college. She liked it, and she accosted me on our side on the school sidewalk, and
I didn't
thought she
touch
looked
you.
I, I thought she was somebody else, and I called her. I was like, "Is your name Tony?" Because I knew somebody named
No,
Tony
I said,
that
no,
looked
I'm
like
not
her.
Tony. I'm Heidi.
So yeah, so that's kind of where we kind of catch up with Heidi. So yeah.
Yeah, and really quick, the reason I knew when I heard Ben's song, I didn't know him, I'd just seen him. I knew he'd written the song. I just thought that guy is singing that song like he's owning it, like it came from him. And I was like, you're that guy who sang that song, and did you write that song? And so yeah,
That's exactly how she did it.
I've always been pretty intense. So yeah, and then I was born in the Northwest, and I started learning violin when I was 10, and my mom was an amazing piano player, so huge music in my house. And then I moved to Romania when I was a teenager, and so I
Hmm.
really spent a lot of my years in Romanian villages, seeing the communal way churches there at the time did music, where it's a group thing. It's we do this together, and you're learning and listening to harmonies, and everyone's invited to participate. And so that was kind of how I really came to understand music culture. And then I was also listening to lots of Irish rock bands, because I lived in, Europe's very small size wise. So all these countries are they're just so close to each other. And we also got a lot of media from the UK. And so I was listening to lots of Irish music. So that's definitely influenced what I do. And then then I went to college and met Ben. I was like, that guy wrote that song. But we weren't really interested in each other at first, so it kind of worked out that we started playing together. And then I was like, oh, maybe I actually like him.
She likes you for your music
Yeah.
first. I
Yeah.
see.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So I didn't realize you were in Romania in your teens. So
I'm a third culture kid. Yeah.
it affected your music tastes, but it
Yeah.
also sounds like it affected your view of how to do church community and the
Yeah, for
participation
sure.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the uh tell me a little bit about when you warmed up to Heidi.
Oh, well, I'm the kind of person that it makes sense I'm a third culture kid, because I don't always, we always don't know exactly how to fit in, and like, wait, I don't know. So I think I'm still, it can be a little awkward sometimes. So I definitely was
They call that
unaware.
creative in Portland, honey.
Yeah. So, but he was so kind, and I loved his music, and it didn't take that long. But yeah, it was great to just see the music, and how we could do that together. And most couples, though, who do music together, I don't know how long that lasts. So we get that it's not always a successful thing to do music together as a couple, but we've managed to not kill each other.
So
And
so you've been doing music together for
20
almost
years?
20 years? 20 years?
20 years, yeah, not
in
as
some
a
way, shape, or
job.
form.
Yeah, not as a job, but yeah. And so we have thought about everything you can think of and more. And so
That is awesome.
it is.
So did you guys major in music? What did you guys study in college?
Well, Savannah, I was going to be a therapist like you, but
Okay.
that didn't work out. So
Still can be.
I still could be. You're right. You're right. I just have a bachelor's in psychology, so I just yeah, that was no. But I would, if I could go to school again, I would probably do music, yeah, or art or something like that. And then Benjamin is
Yeah, well, it's funny because both of my parents were music majors in college.
yeah, yeah.
That's how they met in college, and that's what they both were.
Oh
They
wow.
majored in. I was a biblical studies major because I was studying to be a pastor. Because I at that time back in the early 2000s, I didn't really think I couldn't really make much of a career out of music. So that's the route I went.
Mm-hmm. You went for the big money in ministry.
And then
Yeah,
and music, those two real.
I know. I've got a radar for lucrative positions.
So how um so tell me about how uh you decided to give it a go with music, or um and how do you balance uh vocational ministry um and your band?
Well, so I was working at I moved out to the Northwest to be a worship pastor because I found out, oh, I can do ministry doing music. Oh my gosh, this is such a cool, and I don't have to direct a choir because that was my thing. I'm not skilled in that and nor passionate about it. And so the church I got hired at was not for that. And I was in a position at one point where I was having to consider, gee, what am I going to do? Because it was back in the recession and
Yeah, when
had
everything hit the crash the first time.
the
The
first
first,
time, part
not
one.
this recent time.
And there was a possibility that I might get laid off because of just where things were at financially. And I had a
Mhm.
friend who, I was still writing songs, and I had a friend who was working with a person who did music, and I just never thought I was really good enough. And he asked me to record something and take it to this guy. And initially, he was like, you need to be doing music outside of church. You've written really good songs, and I think you can make a go of it. And just having someone actually say that they believed in you kind of really pushed us in that direction. So we started playing outside of the church. We were under a different band name at that time called the Tribe of Benjamin. So not narcissistic at all. Uh, but we started doing that. And I guess like I don't really see it as a vocational ministry / professional music. I know that there is a line there, but it's more of like, okay, there's a certain way that you do music in church. And honestly, outside of church, there's a little bit more freedom to be vulnerable, I think, and to communicate in a way that is, I'm not having to worry if people are able to follow me outside of church
Mm.
because they're listening. It's a listening kind of thing. Whereas church, there is a sensitivity that has to be there. You have to be drawing people in, and it's something you're doing together, like singing together. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's
And
just
you mean more than like just a key that people can sing together.
right.
You,
Right. The songs need to be familiar. Uh, it's good to be poetic, but not so poetic that people don't know what you're saying. Things like that. So I don't know, Heidi,
And
if
it's
you
not
had something.
necessarily a rule as much as
Right.
just in general culturally. Yeah, yeah. So, um, I think that's something that we're honestly trying to look at too, is the way that art is currently happening. It probably depends on the church you're in or not, and because it can be hard to, we can segment these things. There's church art and then
Absolutely.
there's not church art, but is that really, should it be that way? Should it be that way? So it's really a question, is just because it tends to in a lot of places look different, does it need to, and where can it be, crossover? So how do you be the same person and yet,
Right.
like up until COVID hit, we were doing music in memory care units all the time, so we're still the same people though, But when we're going to a memory care unit, we're going to play music that will help spur the mind. So we're not going to play our rock music, original rock music in the memory care unit.
Valley won't work in a memory care
Yeah,
unit.
but so it is a great, it's a constant challenge of like, how do you always bring who you are, be a consistent person, and yet depending on the audience and who you're serving, it might change the art that you're bringing. So that's a constant reevaluation thing, I think.
Well, it's that tension of you want to offer who you are authentically, but it needs to be in a way that connects with whoever your audience is, whether that's a church congregation or a memory care unit or people at a bar. It's the same kind of dance.
Yeah, I think that art should always kind of just be an act of love, and that it can look different, but it does need to be loving. And so sometimes if I'm entertaining a group of 5-year-olds with music, I'm probably gonna play something different. So always having the audience in mind and how to love them and yet still be me. So it is a constant
You guys
dance.
have played to so many different audiences and groups. So can you share a little bit of like the types of venues that you've played at?
We played at a tattoo parlor one time,
Oh yeah, that was fun.
and I was so stressed out because I kept thinking, if sound feedback happens, because that does happen when you're plugging stuff in, and someone's giving somebody a tattoo, that's permanent. I'm going to literally scar somebody for life. My music will scar somebody from life. So we've done a tattoo parlor, we've done farmers markets, we've done churches, we played at a missions conference. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, here in town.
yeah, we did missions
Yeah.
and that was so fun.
And then we've done nonprofits. We've played down at Union Gospel Mission's annual winter, preparing for winter
Operation
kickoff.
Overcoat.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll pretty much we love playing wherever people will hear us. So
Before COVID shut
yeah.
it down, you guys also hosted a open mic.
Yes, we miss
Yes,
our
we miss
open
that
mics
so much.
so much. Oh, we do. We miss them so much. So hopefully
Grace
one
and
day.
JJ played there.
Yeah.
That was so
Yes,
fun.
my kids
Yeah.
played and they had
Very
fun
talented.
participating in that.
And you are also an open mic. Like ours was just music, but yeah, our friends hosted. Shady Pines has open mics, and you are quite the funny,
Quite the comedian.
quite the comedian.
So
yes.
that was two years ago.
Oh wow!
This month.
Wow.
Can you
I
believe
cannot
that?
believe that.
2
No, I
years.
can't.
No,
And
wow.
so I when things open up, I hope
Yes.
to get on the mic sometime again. And
Yeah.
so with moving out, and maybe this shifts into the other area of the other areas that I want to talk to you about with ministry, but how did you got the job as a worship pastor? That was one reason. Are there any other reasons that brought you out to Portland?
My family's from the Northwest, and so I had been apart from them for a while. And Benjamin just likes the casual dress that you seem to be able to. You can go to church in your jeans and your flip flops, and that's more your speed.
It is.
Back in Virginia, what's the
I was in a
attire?
suit and tie almost every Sunday.
Leading worship?
No, I wasn't the
Suit and
worship
tie?
leader.
Okay.
But it was just that was how things were, especially on Sunday morning. So
just in general, I mean, I'm sure there's places where you don't, but yeah, but the culturally, and just here things are just a little more cash if you want to be.
Mhm.
So you like that, and just the art in Portland, just the art scene is just definitely, it felt like there was a place there that we could, because it's hard to be an artist and a musician, and so it felt like, oh, we can kind of do this here. So that was just really appealing.
And I think there was a willingness on the side of churches to kind of embrace that as part of their ministry. which, gave us a little bit more freedom to explore, you know, different types of music, different expressions of creativity in that context. So that was another reason why we came out. It was so fun.
Nice. The
I
freedom
love
to
living
be
here.
creative. It was is fun for you. Do you think the way you do music would be criticized back home or back east?
I don't think so now. This was like 13 years ago, and I think things have changed quite a bit. And I think there's been more churches that have come up where I'm from that are a little bit more contemporary and open to those kinds of things.
Yeah, it
Nice.
probably depends where you go. So yeah.
Mhm. Nice. So I I I know you guys but for our listeners, can you share like your different personalities, whether like your Myers-Briggs or your Enneagram?
Go.
You want me
Yeah,
to go?
sure. Why don't you describe me and I'll describe you? How
Oh,
about that?
fun.
That's fair.
Fun.
That's fair. So
We'll get a more truthful analysis here.
this is a hard thing
Be
because especially
gentle.
oh yeah, with our numbers, it's been kind of hard because we type ourselves a certain way, but then like the other person's like, I'm not really sure. You see, I could see Heidi as being like a very unique artsy 4, but I also see her as a very helping 2, that
This is
wants to see other.
Enneagram. This is
Yes,
Enneagram.
Enneagram, sorry.
Mhm.
Um, with a very strong moral wing.
Mhm.
So yes, I tend to be very highly intense at all times and very very just in the depths of sorrow, and then oh, the world's so beautiful.
Full range of feeling.
It's
But
an emotional roller coaster.
yeah, yeah, it sure is.
Okay.
And yet I also want to do everything correctly. So it creates,
Mm.
it's really hard when you have like, oh, this beautiful world you want to embrace, but then you're so afraid of doing it wrong. And I just tend to be very loud, very demonstrative, very, very expressive. But I don't know. I think I'm less of an extrovert actually now than I used to
Mm,
be. I think I need a whole lot more alone time, especially being creating. I need so much time alone, and
Mm.
so I think I kind of probably fall really. I don't know if I would still test as an extrovert, but I'm kind of in that
mm.
Kind of
probably
in
that
between.
tipping point. Yeah.
Ambivert.
Amber,
Kind of in there.
I like that. And
wow,
then
that's an actual thing, isn't it?
I love that.
That's
I love
cool.
that. So COVID, in one sense, that aspect hasn't been too hard for me of having time at home to create. That part hasn't been too hard, but there's been plenty other parts about it that even the most introverted person, I think, probably well.
Gets
That
tired of it
contritions
at
to
some
Benjamin.
point.
Yeah, Benjamin is very introverted. I'm learning more and more and more how much you are that way, but even you are like, I need to see some people. But you are
Yeah.
very peaceful, you like things very calm, which I don't know how you picked me because
Because I needed some excitement in my life,
yeah,
honey.
that's it. You like things very peaceful. You like to your spirit animal. I definitely, you're kind of like there's the whale, the humpback whale, who's just peaceful, and sings beautiful music that others want to
Or
hear.
the sloth when I'm crawling out of bed going to my coffee.
So solid and stable.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You really are. I mean, lately, the past couple of years, you have had more anxiety though, which is
Yes.
interesting because you generally were pretty steady, but I think the past few years, and especially with a lot of the things that have happened, your anxiety has been higher. So then it
Yeah.
can be like, what's happening? I thought I was a
Mm,
so.
yeah.
But you were very introspective as well. So you could have a little bit of those 5 Enneagram
I could. I could. I've
things.
wondered that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But the other thing about me though is that like whatever position I'm in, I want to do whatever I do uniquely. I want to think of it,
Oh, see.
which creates sometimes it makes things a lot more complicated and makes things a lot more stressful. Like I get to preach tomorrow, and for me, it's like, oh, this has to be a really unique sermon. It has to be, and so I put
And
all
what did I tell you? Yes, tell you.
that it doesn't have to change
You don't
everything,
have to change the world with your sermon tomorrow.
which is super helpful, by the way. So yeah, that's me. And I hate I'm willing to take on conflict, but I don't like having to have hard conversations with people because I don't want to be the bad guy.
So Enneagram, some 5 qualities, but is that what you think?
I'm
Yeah.
confused, honestly.
Okay.
I'm so
Okay.
confused.
9. I think you're a
that's
9.
see, and that's the
9.
thing. I think I'm a 9, but there's days I think I'm a 4. So I don't know.
That's true,
Okay.
and it is hard for you.
The unique quality piece.
Which, and I think that's what it is when you're in a serving role of music, you're really wanting to serve. And in a lot of church settings, that's the role, is you're there to serve, you're there to help. So there's kind of always, that's probably what you were referring to earlier, is the way that you connect through music is pretty unique.
Mm-hmm.
You're always the one like listening to music that no one's ever heard of, and so you're creating music that is very unique, and yet at the same time you're wanting to serve and help create an atmosphere that everyone can connect to. So
it's how can it fit, and it's not just being different for the sake of being different.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is a dance.
So I'm guessing having your band and writing your music, writing your songs, and having a variety of audiences, that is fun to have that freedom.
It's so nice. It's so fun. We've actually gotten to play some live shows recently, and it's just been food for our soul. We love it. Love it.
So starting to play live shows. We'll rewind a little bit. How did COVID and the shutdown affect you guys?
It ruined my summer, man. I had such a good summer booked for.
You worked so hard. You had
these things
so many gigs booked,
and it was like all of it got canceled.
I know, poor guy.
And so in March, you're like, wait and see. Right? In March, we're thinking this is 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're thinking,
and thinking and that was unbearable. 2 weeks. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then it became a month, and we're like April. When did you start sweating and having to cancel stuff?
It was more of just the venues I think I started to just kind of accept it probably about in April or May. It was like, okay, this is just not going to happen. We were trying to find ways to, there's that word that everybody uses, pivot, because we all have had to do that. Yeah. We try to learn how to live stream from our living room. So we started doing that, but we were kind of at the mercy of the shutdown.
Yeah, and then it was in the middle of one of our like our second live stream that we got the call that my mom was being taken to the ER, and then my mom passed away. So it was like, so then you're trying to that kind of then disrupted a whole bunch of things, and so like everyone else, it's just been a constant decision of like, are we just gonna give this up? And like, no, we're not gonna give it up. This is what matters. And if it gets to the place, well, it took me till October to finally get unemployment. So and so we were like, no, we'll do what we need to do. If temporarily we have to like find another way, we're not going to give this up. And I think that's so hard for people too, is when you have a dream or with some kind of work like the arts. That was the hardest thing for me, like being told that you're not essential, or at least in name, being told you're not essential. What you do is not considered essential to society, which I know that's not the intent, but it can feel like, well, is what I do, does this not matter? Is music not important? Having to work through that whole crisis at the same time of, wait, this is our second career. I really don't want a third career. Right. But it's just been a long journey, and I do believe that music and art is important, and sometimes you have to do something else to kind of try to help pay the bills here and there. But if it's what you're called to do, it does matter. But yeah, it's
What I mentioned this with a lot of clients is life is going well, going fine, and then something happens, and then some folks, they just shut down, isolate, and get discouraged, and some folks, they start scrambling and overperforming and problem solving and go. It sounds like in the middle of that, like it was like feeling maybe lost, trying to figure out, because music is so important to you.
Absolutely.
I still feel lost almost every day. Like in my journaling, like I feel lost today. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to describe both those things. And I think that we both kind of, depending on the day, one of those is either one of us is, oh, we need to react, or I am so depressed I can't even move. So it's kind of like trying to pay attention to that. And we really try not to, unless it's a life like emergency situation, we really try not to make decisions or abrupt changes in crisis mode. And we've really tried to do that for quite a few years, that okay, this is not the time when you make decisions. If you know, for people listening, if they do know the story of Elijah, who did this really great thing in the Bible. Oh, we're in sync. You know, he's a prophet and he does this great thing, but then he's being chased by this Jezebel queen or whatever. So I'm getting the facts wrong, but he wants to kill himself. He wants to die. And he's like, I'm the only one. I'm the only one who still loves God. And, you know, it kind of can feel that way in COVID. Like, am I the only one who's suffering? How is this person so productive? And they like have a, you know, but God's response is,
they're learning Italian in the mornings and Russian in the afternoons.
I'm like, I can barely speak English still. But God's response is, you need to rest, you need to eat something, and you need to like let all the emotions calm down, and then we'll move forward. So that's what we've tried to do, even because I can constantly be like, should we still be doing music? Is this stupid? Is this a pipe dream? A what? So,
and that was even before COVID.
That was before COVID.
So between the two of you, who's the dreamer and the optimist, and like, we can make this work? And who's like, are practically, how do we pay the bills?
Heidi's definitely the pay the bills person.
Well, because I do the bookkeeping.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
But I think we take turns.
Yeah, and I think we can do this.
Yeah, I think that thankfully we're usually not on the. It's only when we're both having the same bad day.
And it's a like, really bad day. I guess
it's pizza night. That's a much safer decision than walking away from your career at times. Right. Like, let's just have some pizza. And so
that's one of the keys from pizza. Our interview today is pizza. Don't give up.
Yes. Yeah.
And murder. We've watched a lot of murder.
A ridiculous amount of true crime.
Much true crime.
Watching true crime? What
yes, we've been watching true crime.
Ben loves murder documentaries.
Like 2020 or Dateline stuff? Or?
The Netflix documentaries.
I saw the first episode. I didn't get back to it because I was like, when is a good time? Because I want to sleep.
I don't recommend doing it as like bedtime background.
The Night Stalker one.
Yes, I watched all of that. I did, and
I haven't got back to it.
And I'm trying to figure out what is it in me that I find that comforting. I don't know
other
why.
People's problems seem worse, and so you're like, oh, my life isn't that bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm still breathing.
I'm still breathing, so it could always be worse.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we generally don't make major life decisions either on our own. Like we kind of have key people. You know, if we're gonna make a major change, it's like, what do you think about this? So we tend to just historically not live in isolation in that way, because we were talking, if you've ever seen Blast from the Past, they lived in a bunker for a long time, and when you just live in a bunker mindset, which in COVID is very easy to do,
this is what we're doing.
But when it's just the two of you, or the three, 3 or 4 of you in your own little bunker, it can get very, very not healthy. And so before we make any life decisions, we do try, what do you think about this? And sometimes people come up with great ideas that just one little idea can, well, you're a therapist, Savon, you know this. Sometimes you probably give a client just one idea, or you ask one question, and that can just make everything seem hopeful, or it can it's actually much more simple than I thought it was. So
that question or that shift, can you think of one that shifted you this past year?
Oh, what do you think?
Could you rephrase the question?
Were there any like crossroads? Whether it's this past year or the past few years, where the theme of one of the themes of the podcast is is being courageous in life. So I guess a better question is, where have you had to be brave or courageous?
I think going on medication for depression like 4 years ago, maybe, I was so resistant. And it felt like weakness to me. And so finally, just like a couple friends, it felt like them knowing and gave me permission, like, just give it a try. There was something in me that did not want to give into depression meds, but I feel like a different person. I mean, it doesn't fix everything, and then every time I start thinking, it was right before COVID hit, I was thinking, maybe it's time to go off my depression meds. And then the NBA closed down, and I thought, maybe not, if the NBA is closing down, that means there's a lot of problems that come in. So every time I'll start thinking, it seems like,
because you're feeling better, you're feeling good.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and then
yeah.
maybe I don't.
I mean, I still do. I mean, I still do have, suicidal ideation might be something I always struggle with, but my brain is like totally different once the medication. I mean, Ben can probably just.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not just what's going on inside, outwardly. You're noticing.
Yeah.
Benjamin. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally know. When she got.
Can we talk about this?
Oh yeah.
Because I want to support couples that are struggling with this. Is as husband, what do you notice if your wife is depressed or struggling?
Well, I think that before she was on medication, there was just, the lows were really like low, to the point that like I didn't know how to help her, and it felt scary, and it took a while for me to even take it seriously, because I'd never really been around that before, to realize, I got.
I think you thought I was trying to get attention. Maybe. Is that what you thought?
Yeah, or to my shame, or over dramatizing.
Because I'm already dramatic.
Right. And then it was like, it's like, oh, it's my fault because we're living this life, and then I feel responsible, then I feel defensive because I feel responsible for her depression. But then I'm like, it's not fair that I'm responsible for her depression. And the second it's not fair comes into my mind is the second this is no longer a helpful conversation.
Right. And when you get to that point, is that where you're thinking, Heidi, you need to be doing more or doing something different?
Yeah. Or I'm usually the minimizer. That's my problem. I'm like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Ben's kind of like, if we think in Seinfeld references, you're kind of like Jerry.
I am so Jerry Seinfeld.
And I'm like Elaine and George, like,
Okay.
So I'm smug. I'm sarcastic. I have a low tolerance for drama.
Yeah. You're just. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was in the beginning, especially, it was like, and we were trying to do everything. We were trying to pray it away. We were trying to meet with people, and it just wasn't getting better, and our situation wasn't getting any better. And for me, it actually pushed me to a place where it was like, oh, I have to have some honest conversations about what I believe about God, because all the tools I felt like I had to deal with this aren't working. And so then when
You
she,
had a picture of how like God should or would come through
yeah,
for
well, because
Heidi.
you ask about crossroads. I mean, I feel like since we've lived here, we've done nothing but go to crossroads and make big decisions. We've demonstrated a glorious lack of, well, we're afraid of not having finances, but our lifestyle probably wouldn't communicate that. But like, the first church I was at, I really came to the conviction that this was no longer a good fit, but I had no idea what I was going to leave to. And, I stepped out and started working menial warehouse, not menial, it was good warehouse work. And then we decided to live with people for 5 years and follow God and go into like ministry, whatever that looks like, and trust him. So
Wow.
we've taken all of these steps with the assurance that, oh, God's going to come through for us. And I think maybe I had the expectation that magically everything would just work out, and not realize that there is some actual real hard life to be lived. And that's just as much a part of the walk as anything else is. So, yeah,
And I
How
think
you grow and
exactly.
journey through life and
Exactly. Not I've
struggle through life.
arrived and it's just going to be from glory to glory. No, it's going to be glory to glory in the valley of the shadow of death.
And I think that going on medication just helped my emotions or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I just have a bachelor's, so I don't know. I don't have the deep degree understanding how medication works. But I think it just helped. It helped the emotions calm down enough to be like, okay, now let's start. What can I practically do? But I think when I've had multiple head injuries, so it totally makes sense.
I did
Like
not
what?
cause any of them.
No, you did
Okay,
not
let's be
cause
clear.
that.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. So it makes sense.
But
Like my brain is just wonked out.
head injuries can definitely affect
Yeah.
mood and memory and make you
Yeah.
vulnerable to anxiety and depression. Um,
Yeah.
the um, I, I want to ask this because some people, one of the hesitations is how it might affect their creativity.
Mm.
Is did taking medication affect your writing or your music?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so because without it, I mean, I was on the floor like sobbing. So comparatively, no. I mean, but I mean, it could maybe for someone else, but for me, no. It just gives me it just helps to um calm things down enough or be hopeful enough that then there's still like patterns of, okay, I need to not watch the news for 2 hours every morning, so that's on me. That's not the best way to start a day either for creativity. So for me, no, for me it's just been super helpful. And yeah, and Ben is also on.
I
He's on
am.
a lower dose than I am, so
I
I'm
made the
more messed
mistake.
up. But
I made the mistake of going off the medication right before COVID.
Mm.
So,
For depression or
yeah,
anxiety?
depression.
Mhm.
And by the time, because I mean, I was just getting to a place where I dreaded getting out of bed and facing my life just every day. Felt that way. Um, so I got off of it and I was doing pretty good. But then by the time Christmas hit this past year, I was like,
maybe.
I don't think I'm doing good again. So I probably need to get back on this. There's no, I think that we're biological people. So, there's a physical component to depression. So it's okay to take medication if you need to.
Right.
We kind of have to. We kind of, when it comes to suicidal ideation, when that's more than, we kind of have like a pattern of, okay, if this goes on for like more than 2 weeks, like kind of with each other, or if this has been going on for, okay, this has been going on for 6 months, you've been working out, you've been trying to, so we try to
You're
kind of
doing all the right things.
yeah, but it's like, okay, it seems like this isn't moving, so I think we try to do that for each other, like ask questions and and just acknowledge.
Mhm.
And we're both super artsy type people. So, I mean, some of that I think is good because, I mean, great pain is super good fuel for art too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so I still like to cry. I mean, I don't want to have a always positive
Right.
happy.
You don't want to eliminate your ability to have feelings.
Right. That's
Right.
the one
That's
thing
what
that
some
it felt
people.
like with my mom dying. I felt like too. That's the one thing. I felt like I don't cry as much as I used to. But
Mm.
the alternative was like literally, nonstop. So it can feel a little trapped emotionally sometimes, but the alternative was not good either. So
Okay. I wanna
yes.
ask about two things before we take a break,
Okay.
and then the first thing is first of all, thank you guys for being open about struggling with uh, depression and suicidal ideation. For anyone who's listening,
Hmm.
or maybe a family member, a friend of someone who's struggling with suicidal ideation, do you have any recommendations or any lessons uh, learned from going through this?
Well, not keeping it quiet, absolutely. My I've had several therapists over the past few years, and so they've helped me. Like I have a team of people, like I have like 3 or 4 people that I just let know. And so I think once you let it out there, just telling someone, for me, it's like, oh, and then do I want to live? Yep, I sure do. I really do. But
Mm,
not everyone does feel that way. That's not always enough. But yeah, I mean, I think just having that commitment to safety, and as soon as you are starting to feel that way, um, letting those people know that you trust, um, that's been very effective for me.
connecting with them, calling them in to support you, letting them know that you're struggling.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes it's not, and I think telling them before it gets really bad, like not
Mm,
waiting until it's really bad versus like, hey, I'm having a really bad week, and try almost like preventative, like before you get to that really bad place. So
catching it earlier.
yeah, yeah, like anything. What
Mm,
do you think, Mr. Ben?
I think being, I guess, from someone who's had to learn, it's taking it seriously and treating it as like this is a serious condition, no matter what. Because even if someone says it in passing, I
mm,
mean, Heidi taught me this, was that if they're even saying it in passing, if they say it passing, we can tend to match it and not act like it's a big deal and move on.
right.
Don't move on.
Mm,
There needs to be a sit down, face to face. Okay, you're saying you're suicidal. Do you have a plan? Are you, um, what do you need? I mean, like really sitting with the person and not trying to fix it or freak out. Because I know that that's something that I know I struggled with, was like I'd either would be not aware of how serious it was, and then the second I became aware, I would freak out.
mm,
Neither one of those things are helpful.
right. Fix
um,
it or freak out,
right.
minimize or maximize it.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. It's
yeah.
you almost have to, I don't want to say normalize it, but to some degree you have to just treat that, okay, this is how this is, and I'm not going to treat you like you're weird because you're feeling that way.
Mm,
I mean, I'm just saying
right.
that
I'm just weird in general, but
as
no,
a
it's
recovering Jerry Seinfeld, I'm just saying that
yeah.
that's one thing. And then the other piece I would say is really having really reaching out to community. I think that's not being alone. I even think something as simple as getting out and taking a walk.
Yeah, it
If
can
you're
just getting out of your house.
it gets you out of your head, and that can be helpful.
And you also have friends, and I have friends, and so I think that's really important, is
Mm,
that couples, you still have, like I have my girlfriends, he has his guy friends. That way, you can't be everything to each other. I can't meet
That's
his
true.
every single need. He can't meet my every single need. And so I think that's really important. I spend time with my niece and nephew, and those two children and their laughter and creativity, I mean, it's so medicine. I mean, and I watch Mr. Rogers once in a while, frankly. If I'm having a bad day and he tells me that he likes me just the way I am. And so there's so many things that, but Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross, just put on an episode of Bob Ross. That definitely you feel loved through the screen. So
Yes.
yeah.
Mr. Rogers,
Oh,
Bob Ross, like that is an era, a time before everything got dark. Before
Right.
goofy Batman became like the Dark Knight. You know, it like everything got dark. Yeah.
So that's light. Yeah, I think just hearing kids' perspectives too on life. It's just they simplify it so much, and seeing kids do art is so beautiful. The way they don't worry about it being perfect. They just let it out, and so yeah, doing art is so helpful.
Nice. Well, that's a great place to take a break. I'll save my other question for after the break. Thank you again, Benjamin and Heidi, for coming on the podcast, and we're going to continue with the other things that I'm curious about in just a bit.